Local 4 News starts now with a breaking news alert.
Good morning, everybody. That breaking news coming from Detroit's east side, where one man is dead after a shootout with police. Police on the scene of Montluin Castle right now, which is close to Van Dyke. Let's get live to Priya Mann right now, who has been on the scene all morning long. You've been there since 5 o'clock. I know this started about 3 o'clock this morning. It's kind of hard to piece together the timeline here, Priya.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the challenges. We were actually here at 4 a.m., but those first calls started coming into our newsroom at around 3 a.m. And this all stems from a situation that started in Warren and ended here in Detroit. But of course, jurisdiction is going to be one of the questions that police are investigating. Why Warren police were here in Detroit. We do have an interview that we want to get to first. But if we do have that a nap pop, I want you to hear what neighbors sounded like as all of this was unfolding.
My kids!
He don't have anything!
So you can just hear it in his voice. I mean, the fear and the panic as all of this was unfolding. This man lived in Warren and died in a shootout with Warren police here in Detroit. All of this started as a domestic violence and attempted arson call. Police say when they located the man, he shot at police and then took off in his car. Warren police and the man who died exchanged gunfire near Montleaf and Castle on Detroit's east side. The man ended up dying in his mother's backyard at some point during the shootout. I want to point out the Warren police station is about 15 minutes away from the scene. It's straight down Van Dyke here. And the homicide task force, which includes DPD and MSP, will be taking the lead on the investigation. Take a listen to what neighbors, many of which who knew this man, had to say.
We heard the shots. We heard the shots.
What'd you see when you came out?
When he came out, our whole neighborhood was out. Everybody in the neighborhood was outside looking at it, and it was nothing but Warren police here. Detroit police wasn't even here yet. It was all Warren police. And then Detroit police started coming, but Warren police murdered my brother.
So you can just hear, a lot of folks out here do not believe that there was a shootout, do not believe that this man was armed. But Warren police are saying that this man did, in fact, have a gun and exchanged gunfire. A lot of folks here want to see where that recovered weapon is, where police find it. So a lot of questions here and still a very active scene. Again, this involved Warren police, but that homicide task force, that joint task force involving DPD and MSP will be leading the investigation. But certainly your heart goes out to this mother who was at home when her son ends up dying just right there in her backyard. Reporting live here on Detroit's east side, I'm Priya Mann. I'll send it back to you.
Okay, Priya, thank you very much for the update there. And of course, we will be following this developing story all day long. And of course, here in the next 2 hours on Local 4 Live and also on Local 4 Plus and always on clickondetroit.com. Well, thank you for joining us here on Local 4 Live. We're streaming on Local 4 Plus, YouTube, and clickondetroit.com so you can get caught up on all the news of the day. Here's what we're going to be talking about for the next 2 hours. Another gateway to Canada is almost complete. You're taking a live look now at the Gordie Howe Bridge, another milestone just achieved. We'll talk about the construction progress and how in the world you build a bridge like that, especially when most of it is underwater. Plus, we're looking at the devastation in Texas, and that leads to a question for us. Can a heartbreaking flood like that potentially hit Metro Detroit? Ashley and Ron Hilliard are going to break that down for us. And finally, a conversation with the mayor of Mount Clemens as that downtown area is about to change in a very big way. Let's start now in Texas. A live look there this morning with a death toll from the heartbreaking flash floods has now surpassed 100. That number is still expected to increase with dozens of more people still unaccounted for. Rescue crews continue to comb through that region looking for any survivors. Now in Kerr County, the hardest hit area, there are 84 deaths, 56 adults and 28 children. Many people are now sharing their experience of the waters rushing into their homes.
I opened the door, all this water started flooding back in, and I couldn't walk outside because it was like so powerful. I couldn't close the door. I tried to open up this door, but the door wouldn't open. And then that's when I saw that this window right here was broken, and I swam through it.
Weather experts say more rain is expected in central Texas and a flash flood risk is still in that area. We're going to take a deeper look at this in about 25 minutes, including again asking the question if a flood like that could happen here in Metro Detroit. Well, it has been decades in the making, and Detroit's new gateway to Canada is closer to opening. We're talking about the Gordie Howe Bridge linking Michigan to Windsor from southwest Detroit. We have seen some major milestones in the past few weeks. Those massive cranes that went up in 2020 to help build the bridge's structure, those are now gone. There are now signs directing you to the bridge up along I-75, and it's even on Google Maps. Take a look at this incredible new footage we got of the bridge from Drone 4. We are so much closer now to having another border crossing open in Detroit, and we wanted to get a kind of a status update, a progress report, so to speak, from the people in charge. That'd be the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority. Their Chief Relations Officer, Heather Grondin, is joining us live. Heather, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, I got to ask, do we have a date yet? Do we know when the first vehicle gets to cross the bridge?
No, it's still too early just yet to have a specific date. I know a lot of people are interested. I get asked that multiple times a day, but we're still working on construction and still have a bit of work left to do before we can set that date.
Okay, so for the folks who have no idea how a bridge is built and what it looks like, what is still left? Because to the naked eye, to the untrained eye, it looks done to us.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that was really the sense since we connected the deck in July of last year. But since then, there's still been a lot of work to do. So if we think about the bridge, it's been, the installation of electrical systems, the fire suppression systems, lighting, barriers, signage. But of course, we're not just building a bridge. We're also building the two largest ports of entry along the Canada-US border. And there's been a lot of work being done on both of the ports as well. If you think of the US port, it's 167 acres, over 300,000 square feet of building space. So there's a lot more work to do there.
We're looking at some brand new video that our drone caught, I believe it was last week, and the bridge just looks beautiful. I'm sure you probably have the same sentiment, but were you envisioning something so beautiful and so iconic, or is it even kind of catching you by surprise?
It is catching me by surprise. We saw renderings for years, and we showed the public those same renderings. And not until you see it in person do you really understand the magnitude, just as, exactly how big and how much it impacts the skyline, how you can see it from so many different places when you're driving toward Southwest Detroit or West Windsor on the Canadian side. And it really is breathtaking in a way that the renderings never could have presented it.
I am no engineer. I have no idea how this stuff works, but I'm always fascinated by it. How do you build a bridge like that, especially when you have much of the structure in the water?
Well, an interesting thing with Gordie Howe is actually none of it is in the water.
Oh, okay.
A decision, yeah. So, a decision was made during the environmental assessment time period, recognizing how important the Detroit River is, ensuring that we don't negatively impact the ecosystem, but also making sure we don't negatively impact the navigation. The Detroit River is a tremendous corridor for trade and for the movement of goods. And so our piers are on the ground, but that didn't make our construction any easier. We actually had to dig all the way down to bedrock with these massive pillars that go all the way down to the ground to be able to support those towers that you see. So building on the ground, had its own process and our own considerations. Also during the construction, the question was asked, are we going to build from the water? So example, putting in panels for the bridge deck that would be lifted from cranes in the water. And in fact, the decision was made to build it from either side of the ground first and go over without ever having any vehicles in the water that would help our construction. And again, that was really thinking about our marine traffic and our partners who move goods through the river. So there were a lot of different considerations, a lot of different mechanisms or approaches that could have been taken. And ultimately, the approach was called a non-cantilever approach was used to build this specific bridge.
I have a million questions for you, and if you don't mind, Heather, we're going to take a very short break, about 90 seconds. When you come back, I want to talk more about the impact and all the jobs you created while you were building this as well. So we'll be back here in 90 seconds. Well, welcome back to Local 4 Live. We're back now with Heather Grondin from the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority. Heather, thank you again for your time this morning. Okay, let's talk some of the numbers. I know that your team has been crunching these and looking at economic impact. How many jobs, how many people are working or still working on the bridge?
So in total, since we started construction back in 2018, we've had over 14,000 people who've been oriented to work on the project in any number of ways. You know, you think of the people who have been up on the bridge deck. You think of the people who are the crane operators. We have landscapers, we have pavers, we have people who are installing electrical. So really a wide range of people working on this project. And a number that we are very proud of is that 42% of those people have been from either the Detroit or Windsor Essex area. And it really has been important to us to ensure that local workers, that local people, local businesses have had a role to play in the delivery of this project.
Wow.
And one other interesting number that you might like to hear is to date, over 19 million hours of work have gone into the bridge, the ports of entry, and our connection into I-75. So those people have really worked a lot of time and put in a lot of effort to get the bridge to this point.
It's unbelievable. You know, we've got a live look right now at both bridges, Gordie Howe off in the distance there. Because it's so much further away, but it seems bigger. I don't know if it's just the perspective we're looking at, but is the Gordie Howe taller than our existing bridge?
It is. So our towers are about 720 feet. So to give you a point of reference, that's about the same height as the center tower at the Renaissance Center. Oh, okay. And then the distance from the river is about 150 feet. So if you go from the river to the deck, it's about 150 feet. And then the span is longer as well. So where the Gordie Howe International Bridge crosses over the Detroit River, the river is a bit wider than where it is at where the Ambassador Bridge crosses. So our main span is about 0.5 miles. So that's just from tower to tower. But then the entire length, if you go from backspan to backspan, is about 1.5 miles. And it is the longest main span of any cable stayed bridge in North America and the 10th longest in the world.
Okay, so in terms of traffic and congestion, obviously we're building it because there's so many people traveling not only the tunnel but the Ambassador Bridge as well. In terms of numbers, how many are you expecting to be using the Gordie Howe versus the Ambassador?
Yeah, it's still kind of hard to say. It's a little early, but if we go back to our traffic analysis that was done in the early days of the project, so during our environmental study period, it was estimated anywhere between 40 to 60% of the current traffic that goes through Windsor, Detroit, will come to the Gordie Howe International Bridge, really ultimately taking advantage of that highway-to-highway connectivity that we're going to offer. So for the first time, people are going to be able to cross from the U.S. side and get to Highway 401 in Ontario without having to deal with traffic lights and that stop and go traffic.
Right.
And that's really one of the key benefits that the bridge is going to provide, as well as 6 lanes in each direction. And as noted, those large ports of entry where every facility, every inspection agency is going to be there located right at the ports.
Are you anticipating the majority of our truck traffic, the goods moving back and forth, to maybe use the Gordie Howe because it's a little bit wider and there's, it's kind of built for that, looking at the different ports on each side?
Yeah, that really is who we anticipate will be using the bridge most of all. It is built understanding the very distinct journeys of both, commercial traffic and the commuters or passenger traffic that's going across the bridge. We have designated lanes for each type of passenger within our ports of entry. So it is designed for both, but we definitely anticipate that trucks will be using the bridge more than passengers who will be traveling.
Obviously, the bridge is born out of necessity because, so many people are traveling to and from. But is there a possibility we could see increased traffic, just the numbers overall going up because now we have more options? You don't have to sit in line for so long?
Yeah, that certainly is the intention with the Gordie Howe International Bridge. Again, when we're thinking about why the bridge was constructed, there is that redundancy or that crossing choice. And it was also built for today's traffic capacity, but also looking ahead and thinking about how having this additional crossing option will encourage investment, encourage new businesses to the Detroit and Windsor area, encourage more goods to flow back and forth. And the great thing is that with with all of the crossings that are going to be between Windsor and Detroit, there will be the ability to handle that increased traffic and handle it in a very efficient way.
Okay. So I know you probably don't want to give away all of your plans, but sometime in the fall when we're thinking Gordie Howe is going to open, what is that party and celebration going to look like?
You know, we're still working on the details. Again, another question I get asked a lot, what is the party going to be looking like? I think that's really a reflection of the fact that, as you noted in the intro, you know, this project has been underway for a couple of decades. You know, the public has really embraced it, is really excited about the opening of this new crossing, and are really looking forward to, you know, how we can mark this point in history with the bridge opening. So still working on those details.
Are there any traditions? Like I know when a ship gets commissioned, they smash a bottle of champagne out. Is it something similar for a bridge?
You know what? I've been researching that to see if there is something like based on that exact thought, and I haven't found anything specific for a bridge yet. So if anyone out there does know of a tradition, they can email us at info@wdbridge.com and tell us what that tradition is.
Maybe it's time to start a new tradition right now. You can be a trailblazer.
Exactly.
All right, Heather, thank you so much for your time, and I know we'll be spending a lot of time with you here in the next several months as we get ready to open that bridge.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care. When we come back here in 90 seconds, a check of your forecast with Ashley. But first, let's take a live look in North Carolina this morning. It is calm right now. It was not that way on Monday. A look at the flooding that the mid-Atlantic states have had with a tropical storm. Welcome back to Local 4 Live. Let's take a live look in North Carolina this morning. Well, it's clear and sunny now, a beautiful shot there. Many in that area are cleaning up after floods from Chantal. Taking a live look at the flooding in that area of central North Carolina. More than 7 inches of rain from Tropical Depression Chantal. Some homes, boat houses, boat docks were submerged underwater. About 80 people had to be rescued by boat overnight. Forecasters say more rain is expected in the forecast later on this week. Ashley Barrissey live here on Local 4 Live. Now, you know, it has been a rough weather week, considering all the things that have happened in Texas and on the East Coast there, and still yet to come because it's not letting up.
Right. I mean, 2 specific events that are flood related, but the weather maker very different. We're talking about the tropical system there, whereas obviously this was a rain and then the rivers overflowing in Texas. And we'll talk more about the Texas event coming up within the next hour. But I do want to focus a little bit on North Carolina and then move back close to home, because you can see those rainfall totals within the last 7 days across portions of North Carolina, around a foot of rain. And of course, we'll be adding a little bit more to the mix. And so hurricane season, because these tropical storms and depressions are all related to hurricane season. And when we look at the climatology, we're not even at the peak of that system yet. So that typically peaks between September and October. So we're likely going to see more events occur within the next couple of months. But here close to home, I mean, we couldn't ask for calmer weather today. Seasonal, lower humidity. Really a pleasant day on tap. In fact, I'm going to call today the pick day of the week, but the humidity will be on the rise come tomorrow and beyond. And with the heat and humidity, well, you know what that means this time of year. There will be some storm chances, but the good news is we're not looking at a severe threat tomorrow. It'll be more inconvenient than anything. Right now, live look at Metro Airport, where we sit in the 60s, but early this morning, a lot of folks were waking up in the 50s, and so it was a big drop in those temperatures through the overnight, but we're rebounding and will continue to do so thanks to sunshine. And so this afternoon, we're going to get into the 80s, but for now, still looking at cooler conditions south of I-94 compared to where we were yesterday. But we start to catch things up all because of that sun. We didn't get much of that yesterday. So 85 for the afternoon high for today. If you're heading out to Comerica Park this evening, once again, it's a 6:40 first pitch against the Rays, game 2 of this homestand. And it's going to be sunny and seasonal, low 80s by the time we get to that first pitch at 6:40. By game's end, comfortably cooler, 74, but we don't have to worry about the tarp going on the field for today. Yesterday, though, we only hit 77, and that broke a really warm streak. We had 17 days in a row over at Metro Airport where we hit at least 80 degrees. So June 19th, we were at 75, and then come June 20th and beyond, we were into the 80s and 90s for highs. But tonight won't be quite as cool, and the humidity starts to creep back in. So 68 for the overnight low. And let's track those shower chances for you, because you can see that there's some moisture building in by late morning tomorrow, and then it's a little more pronounced by the time we get into the evening hours. So I do think that we'll see a little more widespread rain for your Wednesday evening, and you could get some gusty winds and heavy downpours, but it should be below the threshold of severe storms. Now, Saturday is a different story. We're tracking that front coming in, and that's our best bet of seeing some showers and stronger storms develop, though I'm not going to rule out something isolated come Thursday, but Wednesday and Saturday are the days you really want to look out for when it comes to those rain chances. Now, we stay in the mid 80s through Thursday, and then those air temperatures start to creep upward. We're in the upper 80s. Saturday, we are even flirting with 90, but that front will only cool us off a few degrees. We're back in the mid 80s to round out your weekend, and then upper 80s to start next week.
So did you open your windows last night?
I did.
Did you?
I was so excited when I woke up this morning. Yeah, because it was really nice last night.
It was. See, I've got a conundrum, though, because sometimes I'm like, but it's humid.
But it wasn't humid last night.
I know, but I was afraid it was going to be.
He doesn't listen.
I know. I
Listen,
almost always
Nicholas.
listen. I know, my mistake. Thanks, Ash. We're going to come back here on the TV side in just a minute with a news update, but stay with Local 4 Live for more conversations and deep dives on some topics. A live look now in San Antonio, Texas right now. Ahead at 8:30, Ash is coming back. We'll talk about those devastating flash floods there, and we'll have a conversation about could something like that happen here in Metro Detroit. Good morning, everybody. I'm Nick Monticelli. A man is dead after a police shootout earlier this morning on Detroit's east side. Warren police say it stemmed from an attempted arson and domestic fight there with a woman. The man was found in his car in the area of McNichols and Van Dyke. During a chase, police said the man fired shots at the officers. Officers found him near his mother's home by Castle and Montluc with a gunshot wound to his head. It is unclear if the man shot himself or if he was injured during that shootout. We'll have much more information throughout the day here on Local 4 Plus and on clickondetroit.com. Here's what else we have coming up here on Local 4 Live over on Local 4 Plus. The latest from Texas is crews continue to look for survivors after deadly flooding over the weekend. Plus, big changes are in the works from Clemens. We're going to talk about how they are trying to get more foot traffic downtown. And shopping smart on Amazon Prime Day. What's a deal and what's not?
Local 4 News starts now with a breaking news alert.
And that breaking news is on Detroit's east side. A man is dead after a shootout with Warren police, even though it was in Detroit. This happened about 3 o'clock this morning near Castle and Montluc, which is close to Van Dyke and McNichols, across from the Forest Lawn Cemetery. Now, Warren police say this started as a domestic fight when a woman said her boyfriend assaulted her, strangled her, and then tried to light part of her home on fire. That man ran off, but police later found him at his mother's house. He took off again. Police chased him on foot, and that's when he started shooting at officers. Officers fired back. We'll keep you updated with any information on Local 4 and, of course, on clickondetroit.com. Well, welcome back to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. We'll be keeping an eye on that breaking news on Local 4 and Click on Detroit all day long. But let's get to some other top headlines this morning, and that is the situation happening in Texas. A live look right now in San Antonio, where many areas are experiencing even more rain. All of this coming as search and rescue efforts after catastrophic flooding is entering its 5th day. Hundreds of first responders are working through the waters, the debris, and through the night, searching for a miracle. Jay Gray has the latest on those efforts to find any survivors.
Well, good morning, and we want to give you now a real-time look at the devastation the floodwaters left behind here. The family inside this home did manage to escape as the water and mud started to pour in. Now, as the cleanup here begins, the rescue and recovery seems to be settling into a somber, painful rhythm.
5 days in, and the scope, the magnitude of what's happened here is so hard to comprehend.
This is unprecedented flood events.
With unprecedented consequences. A wall of water in some areas as high as 30 feet ravaging everything in its path. The destruction stretching for miles across central Texas. Still, the biggest loss here is not fully known.
I need to tell my community and those families who are waiting, this will be a rough week.
More than 100 are dead. That number expected to grow, dozens still missing. Inside the Dieter Community Center, a place where seniors have gathered for more than 50 years, the water's been pushed out, equipment dried, wet carpet pulled up, and soaked sheetrock cut away. The director of the facility stressing it's just a building that can be repaired. Perspective that comes quickly when you see the recovery effort unfolding just outside your door.
They have had bodies yesterday, day before yesterday, right here, and right here in my backyard.
Like so many here, she has friends who are missing, others who've lost children.
We'll never be the same. We'll never, ever forget this. It'll be close in our heart and in our mind and in our soul, but we will be strong.
A strength this community now leans on as the tragedy continues to unfold.
It's a community grieving, struggling with all that's been lost, that must somehow start to make the turn now toward recovery. Jay Gray, NBC News, Kerrville.
All right, Jay, thank you very much. We've been kind of asking the question now, could something like that happen here? You look at, as you just mentioned, the Detroit River or Clinton River, you know, some of these major rivers that run right through neighborhoods. And I think it's scary to think about, and we know it is possible, but it's a matter of how devastating would it be and how close to something like that could it get?
And we have to remember too that a lot of this happened during the overnight hours, not everybody getting the warnings at that time, and it happened so rapidly. So there's a difference between flash flooding, and it has to do with the timing of how quickly all that occurs. I first want to start by just kind of recapping the amount of water that has fallen down into Texas, that portion in particular. And this is generated from all that tropical moisture. They're situated right by the Gulf, and so this was a historic rain, but I'm going to go ahead and put our estimator on there from our radar, and that's upward of 20 inches of rain over the last 7 days, and the bulk of that falling within a very short window the night that this originally occurred. So let's talk about the danger of floods, the amount of water, because this might blow your mind. 1 inch of rain falling over 1 acre of ground is equal to over 27,000 gallons and weighs over 100 tons. So you think of, oh, just an inch of rain, but you don't think about the amount over a widespread area of just how much water that is. 6 inches of water, that can sweep a person away. A foot of water can take away a car or SUV, and 18 inches of water would sweep away a really large vehicle. And so we were just talking about more than 20 inches of rain within that area. So that's Texas in and of itself. So the short answer for Michigan is that it's just totally different in terms of the landscape. I mentioned the Gulf down into Texas. Of course, we have our Great Lakes here that can generate moisture. And Nick, we were talking during the break too. Some people might remember when Hurricane Harvey came up this way and stalled out over the Midwest, and we had basements flooding across the Midwest. So we certainly can deal with tropical moisture, but former meteorologist Ron Hilliard is going to explain in further detail the difference between what happened in Texas and what can happen here.
Up to 20 inches of rainfall fell for the holiday in Central Texas, and there's some amounts of rain that we've seen here that have been excessive as well. And flooding has happened here, and it can continue to happen here in Metro Detroit. I do want to just talk about the reasons for the Central Texas flooding. There was a lot of moisture with the system that was over Texas. There was moisture from the Pacific, from the Gulf, and from the remnants of Tropical Storm Barry. Also, the terrain there in Central Texas, it's hilly. We have hard and dry soil, and then all of that water over that soil ran off into the Guadalupe River, and the Guadalupe River overflowed. Now, here in Metro Detroit, we see different types of flooding. Some of the types of flooding include fluvial flooding, that's any body of water, including rivers, overflowing. And then there's pluvial flooding. That's when the heavy rain is overwhelming the drainage system. Now, I do want to remind you that there's the different types of flooding here in Metro Detroit. We often see the river flooding as well as the street and freeway flooding here. And that's because the system is just not built to handle the amount of rain that we see sometimes nowadays. Now, could it happen here? Well, it's unlikely to happen here in Southeast Michigan, but we are likely to continue to see flash flooding. And the reasons are because of the aging infrastructure here and the overwhelmed system, and also because of the extension of the metro area. Well, we continue to expand. We continue to see more developments, less vegetation, and more pavement. And also then there's the increase in rain. When we have a warming climate, the atmosphere can hold more moisture and release more rainfall. Back to you guys.
That's a really good point because, I've had some people say, it seems like we always have these 100-year floods. They're not 100-year floods anymore. Right. And that does have to do with the warming climate, as Ron just mentioned. And he also mentioned the infrastructure. I wanted to recall, it was probably, gosh, I'm trying to think back now, 15 years ago. Remember when I-75 was underwater?
Yes. Yeah.
That was devastating to areas of Metro Detroit. And so, hopefully we don't see that again in our lifetime, but with an aging infrastructure, you don't know.
I think it's also important to point out, too, that when we see flooding here, a lot of the times it's usually because of infrastructure, and the floods come up, and it's more often than not kind of a standing water.
Right.
What they had there was mixed in with the current, right? And you've got, moving water, which is 1,000 times more dangerous.
Right. I can't stress enough, now that we are looking at this in hindsight, right, that we get flash flood watches fairly regularly here because we do get bigger rainfall events. And you might see in the corner of your screen when we have that we call a little weather bug up there that shows you that there's a flash flood watch. So many folks don't take that nearly as seriously as a severe thunderstorm watcher warning or a tornado watcher warning. And at the end of the day, flooding is the #1 weather-related killer in the United States. And so we certainly should be taking that far more seriously because of what you've just seen in Texas.
And that caught me off guard, too. You'd think that it would be lightning, severe storms, tornadoes. It's flooding.
Right. And you know what's just right behind it? Heat-related illnesses. Right. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. All right, Ashley, thank you so much. When we come back, a look at some of the headlines here in Metro Detroit, which also includes a live look at our stock futures boards. We're taking a look at what impact the markets will have or will look like after President Trump announcing additional tariffs when we come back in just a moment. Welcome back to Local 4 Live. Day 2 and still no deal for nurses at McLaren-Macomb Hospital. Hundreds of nurses and other workers at the hospital walked off the job yesterday, launching a 3-day strike over unfair labor practices. The union says they are fighting for fair wages and full staffing. The strike involves 700 workers, including nurses and medical and lab technicians. McLaren says they put forth an offer that included a wage increase and a strong compensation package. Workers on the picket line say they remain committed to their cause.
We have one goal here, and is to fight for our patient safety and our nurses' safety. This is a long-term fight for the dignity and safety of our nurses and of our patients. We are here because of that. We are here because of our community.
Now, the nurses were planning on a strike ending tomorrow. However, they said they have been locked out until this weekend. Let's go to Washington, D.C. now, where the president is planning on issuing more tariffs. President Trump plans to give Japan and South Korea a 25% tariff. Imports from Laos and Myanmar will face an even higher 40% duty. The decision comes just days after a reciprocal tariff on dozens of countries were supposed to kick in. Now that deadline has been pushed back to August 1st. Let's take a live look at the stock futures board. Stocks were up and down all day following that announcement of tariffs yesterday. Even with the pace of the tariff announcements, many investors remain confident the stock market has moved past the worst of the tariffs. Monday's developments are expected to be the first of several this week. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says more tariff letters can be expected in the coming days. The market opens at 9:30 in about 45 minutes. We will see what happens. Detroit police are addressing the several shootings over the last few weeks involving teens around Detroit. Many of them were deadly. So now city leaders are enforcing a curfew to curb that violence. That means kids who are under 15 and under, who are 15 and under, I should say, must be home by 10 o'clock at night. Teens 16 and 17 years old must be home by 11. Now, parents of kids breaking curfews will get tickets. Mayor Mike Duggan is asking City Council to increase fines for violations.
This is now a priority for every member of the Detroit Police Department. So whether they're working the precinct, regular patrol car, whether they're working community relations, this is an extreme priority. We are writing curfew tickets for minors right now as young as 12, 13, 9, out at 3, 4 in the morning.
The city is also calling on lawmakers in the state Senate to pass the Public Safety Trust Fund legislation that would let them allow them to expand violence prevention programs into the city. Well, this is a Go For It class that was suggested by viewers. We've put it together for our July event. You can join us on Tuesday, July 15th to learn first aid basics. You can sign up right now using that QR code on your screen or by heading over to clickondetroit.com. With the Red Cross, we'll be offering free classes starting every hour from 10 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night. We're going to do it over at U of M Dearborn's Fairlane Center South building. That's at 19,000 Hubbard Drive in Dearborn. From how to care for a cut to using an EpiPen and how to save someone who is choking, you're going to leave feeling better prepared to handle lots of injuries and emergencies. Bring a friend, come by yourself. We hope to see you all out there. Well, Ashley says you will like the weather today, but maybe not the rest of the week. And is it finally warm enough to swim in the Great Lakes? I think you may have found the answer last weekend, but what's it like coming up? Where in some spots the answer is yes, others, not a good idea. right, welcome back to Local 4 Live. Did you happen to take a dip in a lake over the 4th of July? Was it a little chilly? Actually, for some people, it was quite enjoyable. Lakes are finally starting to warm up, and it's obviously been pretty hot, so it wasn't hard to do. In fact, I think you were saying that over on the west side of the state, you, for the first time in a long time, went in the lake.
So I wasn't in a great lake. I was in an
Okay.
inland lake, but it's still a pretty big inland
Sure.
lake. And yeah, the sea surface temperatures for the lake there, low 80s.
Oh.
So yeah, when we were like
That's
cooking at
doable.
90, I was like, all right, mommy can get in the lake with the kids. I can handle this. But normally I put my toe in, I'm like, oh, it's too cold.
Yeah, I'm out.
But yes, I thought it was very comfortable. I was talking with Priya, who was over at Lake Michigan, and she said, you know what? It was refreshing.
Yeah.
And when I go over towards Lake Michigan in June, I'm like, I mean, I love being over there, but that water, it's a little too chilly for my
Isn't it
liking.
funny, the older we get, how hot it has to be for us to get into?
Yes.
Like,
Kids can handle anything.
doesn't matter. But
Right.
now we're like, oh, it's 73. I don't know.
I know. But we can look at those lake water temperatures because we've been following this for a while now. Check out Lake Erie, 78 degrees. I mean, that's not even one
Really?
of the inland lakes. I mean,
Okay.
one of our Great Lakes, and Lake St. Clair, 73. And then we have several 70-degree water temperatures on that southern edge of Lake Michigan, Saginaw Bay, mid-70s. So yeah, that's swimming weather. I mean, swimming water weather.
It's both.
It's both. But yeah, I mean, we're going to continue to warm up. The lakes warm up slower, even though we're past the peak of our solar activity.
Sure.
Now the day, the daylight.
There's a lot of water in there.
Right.
You got lots to heat up.
That's right. And so there's always a little bit of a lag, just like we have our seasonal lag. So
Right.
it's just going to get warmer from here. Maybe start making those Labor Day plans to hit the water because that's when it'll really feel nice. Okay, let's take another look at some water. The lake over in Belleville there, I bet you that one's probably around 80 degrees. 62 degrees, the air temperature in Belleville right now. So shoot, you could jump in the lake and it'll feel warmer than the air temperature. City Airport 65, 63 in Pontiac, and 66 in Adrian. That temperature change, a little bit of a downward swing for folks in Wayne, Washtenaw County on south, but not a huge difference if you get north of that 96 corridor. And so we will start to see an upward swing as the afternoon progresses because we didn't really get a whole lot of sunshine today, or yesterday, if any. Today, we get an abundant amount of sunshine, so that will warm us up. 85, low humidity, seasonal day on tap, and if you plan to go anywhere across lower Michigan, you're likely going to find the 80s, except Port Huron, you might struggle just a bit because you're right off the water there, so 78 for the afternoon high. We broke a warm streak, so the last time we were not in the 80s, other than yesterday, which was when the streak was broken, was June 19th, where we hit 75, but we had 17 days of 80-degree temperatures or above. And so that was a really warm stretch. We're back in the 80s today, so here we go. But far cry from the hottest week we've ever experienced. It was this week in 1936. 7 days in the triple digits.
Jeez.
Woo! That's not even factoring in the heat into season.
There's no air conditioning.
Oh, man. That was brutal. You know who remembers that? Darnell Blackburn. He remembers that. He's not even here to defend himself. So let's go ahead. That's the best one you can do.
He's going to come find you, I promise you.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and track those rain chances for you. Tomorrow morning, I'm not ruling out late morning, a passing shower or two, but better chances for more widespread scattered downpours or a little gusty wind going into the evening Wednesday, though I don't think we'll see that reach severe limits. Now, check out, we're getting new updated model runs, and that looks like it could be interesting come Saturday evening. Front sweeps through, and that could bring us some thunderstorms late Saturday, possibly lingering in the early part of your Sunday before we dry things out for the remainder of the weekend. And it's that heat and humidity that'll clash with that front, so we're close to 90 on Saturday, but mid-80s come Sunday, and then creeping back in the upper 80s on Monday. So, just those slight chances Thursday, Friday shouldn't keep you from hitting the pool.
Right, right.
Pad. Yeah.
I'm surprised you're not on your cell phone right now.
Because it's Amazon Prime Day.
Sure is.
I have this reputation around here that I like to purchase things from Amazon.
Rhonda said I was a resident shopping expert, whatever that means.
Well, hey, if I give you my order, can we just put it on your account and you pay for it?
Sure.
Oh, okay. My son's birthday's coming up. I'll give you the birthday list.
What's he want?
Who knows? Probably something hockey and baseball related.
Yeah, right. Well, you probably know this already, but just in case you don't, today is what many consider the Super Bowl of shopping. We're going to talk about Amazon Prime Day, but not all the deals are actually worth it. I'm going to tell you which ones you should avoid as you scroll throughout the day. Welcome back to Local 4 Live. It is one of the biggest sales around. Today is Amazon Prime Day. Actually, it's Amazon Prime Week, but today is the day that things kick off. You are just seeing this huge world sale, but it doesn't mean you're getting the best deals. Let's take a look at some things you might want to avoid getting on Amazon this Prime Week. Large appliances, you can actually usually find better deals on those during Labor Day. TVs, they usually go for cheaper on the holidays and right around the Super Bowl. Video game consoles, Black Friday is actually a better time to get that one, especially when retailers are bundling them with controllers and games. And if you're already thinking about grabbing backpacks and pencils for back-to-school shopping, you might want to wait a little bit longer for those deals, especially because our experts say that you're going to find more sales on things that are summer-related as they try to clear out the inventory. Now, again, besides the discounts, here's the other ways you can save. Consider trading in something you already have. You can actually get an extra 20% off of some Amazon devices by trading in the old ones, old e-tech, e-readers, smart speakers, cell phones, Fire Sticks, things like that. Also, you should check to make sure whatever deal you're looking at is actually a deal. You can do that by checking historical pricing data on websites like camel.com or Honey's Drop List. I always wonder where they come up with these names, though. There's also even bigger discounts on Amazon renewed gadgets. Those are things that have been refurbished. They promise they will work like brand new. Also, check around with other online competitors. Sites like Coupon Cabin offer cash back at Target, eBay, Kohl's, and Home Depot, which can actually add up to more money back than the original discount that was offered by Amazon. Right? Let's take a look at the Amazon website right now for a look at some of the items that are currently on sale. Producer Mary is shopping as we go. Mary, what do you have your eye on there? What are we buying? Ah, those headphones I was just talking about. There's a deal, I'm telling you out there. But again, the experts say focus on things that you need, not the things that are kind of nice to have. This morning, we had money-saving expert Andrea Warwick on our show. Jason and Rhonda chat with her about some secret ways you could save.
You can actually filter searches on Prime Day to see if there's extra coupon savings. Just go to today's deals, hit the coupon button. This will show you any Prime Day deals that have extra coupon savings. And don't forget, there are competitors, Target Circle Week, Walmart deals, Best Buy's hosting their own events. You actually want to compare those prices, but also compare coupons for those similar items to see if you can get a deeper discount at another site. And you can find coupon codes at sites like couponcabin.com. They might also give you cash back at, say, Target versus Amazon. And so maybe that extra cash back outweighs any deal you're getting on Prime Day. So consider that. And then I also wanted to leave you with this. You can actually get free money on Prime Day if you are a new Amazon Photos users. If you upload a photo, you'll get a $15 credit. And if you use Amazon Cash, upload $20, they'll give you a free $10 promo credit to use on Prime Day. And you can use that $20 Amazon Cash to pay for your purchase. So why not get that extra $10?
Right.
Okay, I feel a little overwhelmed.
I know. It's.
Did you take notes? I have all my notes.
Will you do my
them to
shopping
you.
for me? We have your notes right here, but I'm still just feeling like, wow. I mean, this takes, you actually need kind of like an evening tonight if you're at work, to really navigate all this because there's so many ways to save, but you have to, take the time to
do
get
a little bit of research. Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes a bit of research, and this is also a good reminder. Don't buy everything at once. Add items to your cart. Maybe it'll go on sale later in the week. We know that Amazon is going to be hosting big deal drops every day. Something else is going to go on sale for even further. So if you add it to your wish list, you can even track prices using Alexa if you have an Echo Show device, and this could, keep you up to tabs on what goes on sale further.
Well, much more ahead here in our next half hour, or hour, I should say, on Local 4 Live, including school districts not knowing how much money they're going to get from the state because lawmakers failed to pass a budget in time. We're going to talk with two superintendents about how this is affecting schools because the beginning of their fiscal year is today. Then a Macomb County Mayor, Mount Clemens Mayor, joining us in studio to talk about their plans to revitalize downtown Mount Clemens. And we'll bring you to an event happening this morning in Detroit, helping teens find summer jobs. More news and weather in the next hour of Local 4 Live. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Local 4 News starts now with a breaking news alert.
That breaking news coming out of Detroit's east side, where a Warren police officer shot one person who was running from them. Police are on the scene of Montluh and Castle right now. That's pretty close to Van Dyke. Priya Mann is there with the latest on that investigation.
There will be a lengthy investigation ahead following a shootout between a Warren man and Warren police in this Detroit neighborhood. Just want to show you a bit of the scene right now. Still very active here with that vehicle that the man was driving still left right there in the middle of the road. This has been a situation that started to unfold at about 3 a.m. this morning. We're hearing the first call came into Warren police as a domestic violence and attempted arson call. When police found the man, he took off in his vehicle and ended up here. His mother lives in this neighborhood. Take a listen to what neighbors, how they were reacting in the moments as all of this was unfolding.
My kids!
He don't have anything!
Now, when police found the man initially, they say that he fired at them and then took off in his vehicle. Police followed him to this location, which is Montleaf and Castle on Detroit's east side. This is where his mother lives. Police say there was another shootout and the man died in his mother's backyard. To give you a point of reference here, the Warren Police Station is about 15 minutes away from the scene. It's a straight shot down Van Dyke. We have been talking to neighbors who live in this area who knew the man who died. Take a listen to what they had to say.
We heard the shots. We heard the shots.
What'd you see when you came out?
When he came out, our whole neighborhood was out. Everybody in the neighborhood was outside looking at it, and it was nothing but Warren police here. Detroit police wasn't even here yet. They wouldn't even let us go down there and talk to his mom. But I know she's going through a lot right now. That's her only son. And he was trying to make it to her.
While the shooting involved Warren police here in Detroit, it will be DPD and MSP who are leading the investigation now with the homicide task force. Again, one man is dead following a shootout with Warren police. We're working to learn more information. I can tell you that a lot of family members and loved ones here do not believe this man was armed. But again, police are saying that he was armed and opened fire. And then this all unfolded right here in this Detroit neighborhood in the very early morning hours today. On Detroit's east side, I'm Priya Mann. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Priya, thank you much. We're going to be following this developing story throughout the day. You can find all of the updates here on Local 4 Plus and over at clickondetroit.com. Well, it's strange to say, but the show already started. Good morning. I'm Nick Monticelli. Welcome to Local 4 Live. So much more coming up for you in the next hour of news. It is the money that keeps schools running, but right now districts in Michigan, school districts all over, are in limbo because state lawmakers haven't passed a budget yet. Superintendents from Wayne County and Macomb County both joining us to talk about how this impacts the start of their school fiscal year, which is today, by the way. And let's say hello to Mount Clemens over there in that second box. Big changes happening downtown. We're talking about that with the mayor. She's joining us in studio, talking about all of the plans happening to encourage more people to come to downtown, work downtown, live in downtown Mount Clemens. They actually sold their building. They're moving out. Big plans. Also, maybe you don't have to take your shoes off at TSA checkpoints anymore. We're learning about a pretty big shift coming the next time you fly the friendly skies. Stage manager Dana is very excited. She has taken off her shoes. All right, on a much more serious note, let's take a live look in Texas, where the death toll from those heartbreaking flash floods has now surpassed 100 people. That number expected to increase, with dozens more people still unaccounted for. Rescue crews continue to comb through the region looking for any survivors. Now, in Kerr County, that's the hardest hit area, there are 84 deaths. 56 of them are adults, 28 are children. Many people are now sharing their experience of the waters rushing into their homes.
I opened the door, all this water started flooding back in, and I couldn't walk outside because it was like so powerful. I couldn't close the door. I tried to open up this door, but the door wouldn't open. And then that's when I saw that this window right here was broken, and I swam through it.
Now here's where it gets more difficult. Weather experts say more rain is expected in central Texas, and a flash flood risk is still in that area. Meanwhile, more dangerous weather impacting the U.S. This is now an aerial view of flooding in parts of North Carolina yesterday after more than 7 inches of rain from Tropical Depression Chantal pounded that part of the state. Some homes, boathouses, boat docks were submerged. Thankfully, there were no reported water rescues or deaths, but in a nearby county, approximately 80 people had to be rescued by boat overnight. Let's take a live look at Mackinac Island right now, where Michigan senators have approved a bill to give Mackinac Island leaders more power to regulate ferry fees. The bill is trying to address a monopoly driving up costs. Since a Florida-based company took over both ferry services, prices for tickets and parking have gone up. The bill would let the city control all fees for parking, luggage charges, and ticket prices. If the House and Governor approve that bill, Mackinac Island voters would cast their ballots on expanding that regulation. Okay, a live look now in Mount Clemens, where the downtown area is about to get a huge change. The city is revamping the waterfront along the Clinton River with a goal of encouraging more people to live and shop there. It's an issue we featured in our In Your Neighborhood segment back in May when we took our 5:30 newscast on the road and spent the entire 30 minutes in Mount Clemens. This time, the show came to us. Joining us to talk about the progression there, Mount Clemens Mayor Laura Kropp is here, and State Representative Denise Spencer, who represents that city. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, let's talk about City Hall, because that building is historic. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it's historically messy, right?
Yeah.
It has single pane windows, heating and cooling that's failing. The list goes on and on of needs. So yes, we definitely needed to make a choice on would we just renovate the building, or is this an opportunity to really look at where City Hall sits?
Which had to be a challenge. Speaking of where it sits, there's some video I want to show you right now of old City Hall. This is what it says in the rundown, old City Hall.
Old City Hall.
Because
City Hall.
Geographically, it's beautiful, right? It's right on the river. I mean, it's in a great spot. So giving up that space had to be a difficult decision.
Absolutely. I have a wonderful view from my office.
Right.
And I get to see the Clinton River, and it's something that we want everyone to enjoy. And so it made it really an opportunity for us to look at and say, hey, we should have other people enjoying this view and other people really understanding. And it's a competitive advantage to other communities within our county and the Tri-County area. Not too many of them have rivers that run right through their downtown.
Of course. I didn't ask you to bring numbers, so if you don't know the answer, it's okay. But I'm curious if you know what the renovations costs were versus, buying an existing building and moving out.
That's kind of the phase we're in now, is looking at what is that number. We know that we've had some preliminary numbers from our heating and cooling guys that say, hey, all 5 units on the top of the roof right now are failing. And it would be over almost $1 million, we believe.
Just for that, though, because
the
building is so old that once you start tearing things down and moving around, you find more problems.
Definitely. And we have walls of single pane windows. So it would be a tremendous cost. And so we know that this next step, we also have a problem. 48% of our land in Mount Clemens and our 4 square miles, because we're the county seat, is non-taxable. So when I became mayor, I said, in order to make Mount Clemens sustainable, we have to increase our taxable properties. And so to do
Which
that,
I'm sure is fairly controversial.
Yeah, well, everyone agrees we need more money.
Okay.
So yeah, absolutely. So we've done some things that have helped promote growth in Mount Clemens in terms of the business communities. We're having a great development that's happening in Gibraltar, over by the old Gibraltar Trade Center. So we've got some movement in that direction. But the City Hall piece really helps us move to the next level.
Right. So speaking of, Denise, you can talk more about this because a lot of money was needed to make this project happen. So we showed you the old. Now we can show you, we'll say new, but it's not new, but you're purchasing the old Anton Center from Oakland University, which is basically just, on it's kitty corner.
Just a skip and a jump.
Right. Yeah, just go over the river and it's there. How did all this come together?
Well, the first contact I had with that was County Executive Mark Hackle's office. His assistant, John Paul Rea, called me and said, what can you do to help? And I'm like, well, how much do you want?
How much help or how much money?
Which was the answer we wanted.
So they wrote a very beautiful letter. I filled out all of the forms for the enhancement. It's called an enhancement grant. And And then I begged, pleaded, and stared at people intimidatingly.
That's our girl.
So we're looking at video right now of the building that you're going to be moving into, which again, it's not far from the old City Hall. It's right across the street from the county admin building.
Right.
So how much did it cost you to purchase this, and when are you hoping to move in?
So this is a $1.5 million to Oakland, right? We're purchasing it for $1.5 million.
Okay.
And then we will have to build out. We also are going to move the fire station to that building.
Okay.
So there'll be some cost to that.
Sure.
And we're looking for funding for that as well.
Right.
But we want to move so that we have this campus. We'll have the substation, so the sheriff will be there, the fire station, and move everything off of the river into that complex over at 20 South Main.
Gotcha.
And that there will be a cost to that. We've been planning with our strategic plan and our budget aligning, and so we have capital funds set aside. But of course, there is some additional costs that we are looking to look for grants and some other. We're gonna
we'll beg and intimidate. Before you get going, we've got to take a very short break. When we come back, we'll talk more about that, and then let's talk kind of overall plans for revitalizing downtown when we come back in 90 seconds.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome back, everybody, to Local 4 Live. Back now looking at Mount Clemens. I've got the Mount Clemens Mayor Laura Kropp right next to me and State Representative Denise Metzer also. As we look live, we planted a camera there. We're watching you for years.
I like it.
So we've talked about the plans to move City Hall kind of in more of the downtown off of Main Street there, which really opens up a lot of opportunity for the waterfront right there.
Yes.
Is that kind of your vision to revitalize that area, maybe attract some new businesses, new people, maybe even some new housing down there?
Absolutely. It's phase 3 of our plan.
You've got all these phases.
I know. I know, we do. Phase 3 of the plan, and phase 1 is in the works right now. We have $6.5 million project in the heart of Mount Clemens. You already covered that when you had all the construction happening.
There's a lot happening down there.
Yes, exactly. Finally, right? So we've got a ton of stuff happening in the heart of the city, and then we're kind of building out. So next phase is Main Street. We're going to put a boulevard down the middle and we're putting green space, and it's going to be a beautiful, and it's going to lead you right down to City Hall.
Oh, perfect.
And then the third phase will be this riverfront revitalization, and that's going to be a public-private partnership because we want a developer to come in, and we want people living on the river. We want multi-use there. We want public access. So it's really in the high-level phase of what we're kind of dreaming right now, right? What is this going to look like once we move those buildings off? And then the city commission, of course, obviously has to have some input into that, and just and then of course bringing the right developer on board to make those dreams come true.
Okay, so speaking of dreams cost money.
Yes, right.
So I wanted to ask Denise, is there anything from a state perspective? Are there grants? Are there funds? Are there things that can we beg for more money somehow to make these things happen?
I've already been begging. I got some letters of support from County Executive Hackle, from Greg Shipman, the city manager. I went as far as getting letters from the firefighters union, because the fire hall's right on the waterfront, for the fire chief. So I put together an enhancement grant paperwork and submitted all those letters, and I have been advocating hard to get some money for this project.
Right. So I mean, I know money, especially in Lansing, is very difficult to come by right now. You're still fighting over what the budget's going to be.
Oh yeah.
So is there the political will to spend money on projects like this?
Well, from what I heard in our caucus is that the money, the enhancement grants that are going to come out this year are going to be infrastructure and safety based.
Okay.
So you're not going to see anything for a gun range or a golf course, or a splash pad. At least that's what we've been told. And quite frankly, I appreciate that. It has driven me crazy for years. I was on Mount Clemens City Commission with Laura for years. It drove me insane that we have a parking lot on the waterfront.
Right.
So this development is going to be huge, for the city, and I will do whatever I can to bring as much money as I can for this project. And I have talked about it incessantly with some people on the Appropriations Committee and with, within, the Democratic Caucus.
Sure. Okay, so we've been talking phase 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
What's a realistic timeline for all this?
Well,
I know that's the hardest part.
Right, of course. Barring no roadblocks.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, because that never happens.
Yeah, right, exactly. So phase 2, we believe next year will get started. So that's Main Street.
Okay.
And then the riverfront and City Hall moving around the same time as phase 2, and then the riverfront shortly after.
And then are you just selling the City Hall property? Is that to the right developer? Is that kind of okay?
Right. Okay. That's what we kind of envision. But again, there's so many opportunities in that, and so many other communities that we see doing kind of mixed, where they might sell or they might use part of it. So
I mean, you can put a deed restriction in place to say how it gets used. I'm sure the lawyers are telling you that's what to do.
Yeah, sure, of course.
What's your vision? What would you love to see there?
I would love to see people living there. I would love to see a really beautiful restaurant where you can pull your boat up or walk right into downtown right from it.
Yeah.
That's my vision. But there's a lot of people. It's not just my vision, right, of Mount Clemens. It's going to be the residents. It's going to be the city commissioners. It's everyone. So it's exciting.
So I'm sure a lot of this has to do with beautifying the area, but I'm sure a big driver is also the economy, right? Whatever you do down there, let's say it's some apartments and a nice boat dock and restaurants, that will bring money into Mount Clemens, which you also need.
Yes. Right now, City Hall and obviously the fire station don't generate any revenue for us in terms of property taxes, so it will. But then also just it creating a space where we have more residents.
Right, a synergy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have other developments that are happening. We have less than 100 people living in downtown proper right now, but we have...
Really?
Yeah, yeah. In those 6-7 blocks,
okay, it's all
we have less than 100, right, exactly. So we have a 117 unit development that is in progress right now at the old Victory Inn site.
Okay.
We had another development, Edison Crossing, that was recent, 30 units. And then if, the riverfront becomes that as well.
It kind of seems to me, and please, no offense at all, but Mount Clemens is kind of like the sleeper cell at this point. Like, you are going to come out of nowhere and you'll be a place to be.
Well, watch
out. Not that you're not now.
We're waking up.
Awesome. Okay, Laura, Denise, thank you so much for coming in. And we can't wait to see what happens in Mount Clemens. And we'll say 3 years.
Sure.
Okay, deal. You heard it here first.
Come back and see us.
There you go. Okay, we're going to look at the top trending stories here on clickondetroit.com, including 16 weekend closures covering one stretch of I-75. Oh, also a beautiful day. Changes are coming, though. Ashley's forecast is coming up. Welcome back to Local 4 Live, happening on Detroit's east side right now as we speak. Mayor Mike Duggan is set to officially open the 6-week Grow Detroit's Young Talent Program. This is an employment window for over 8,000 young people. Let's listen into this live announcement happening as we speak.
So you might wonder, what do you learn from that? I tell you what I learned. When you are tired and sore at 6 in the morning, you still got to drag yourself out of bed.
Well, sometimes the challenge with doing things live is that you have technical issues that you cannot avoid, but we will bring you back that announcement. I know they're recording it back in the control room somewhere, so we'll bring you portions of that as we can. But that was a very big deal in the city of Detroit. It is, as they hire as many young people looking to fill those summer jobs. In the meantime, speaking of summer, Ashley Barrissey is here to talk about the summer temperatures. This week feels like just it's kind of like the Three Bears. Like it's this is comfortable. We're in the right spot.
The different kinds of forage. Right. Yeah, this is just right. Yesterday might have been a little too cool for some folks.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, when you come off a 90-degree day over the weekend and then you only get into the 70s yesterday, that was a bit of a reality check. But today we're back to where we should be. So yeah, let's talk more about the tale of the Three Little Bears. Pleasant today, seasonal temperatures, lower humidity, sunshine. Just a great day to get outside. That humidity, though, will be on the rise before you know it. I mean, it is the tale of a Michigan summer, right? So on the rise later this week, and you start to even feel that through the overnight tonight. Storm chances will be returning midweek. The good news is we're not anticipating severe storms. Now, you never can completely rule it out, but I think you just get some heavy downpours from the system that rolls through tomorrow. Maybe some gusty wind that stays below the threshold of any kind of severe thunderstorm warnings. But right now, blue skies over downtown Detroit. It's a beautiful look outside, and we're welcoming that sunshine after it went away for a little bit yesterday. 68 degrees in the city, 69 in Ann Arbor, Pontiac 67 and 68 in Monroe. And so we're on an upward swing. Still a little cooler down into portions of Lenawee and Monroe County than where we were 24 hours ago, but talk about a big difference thanks to that sunshine, because areas like Ann Arbor early this morning were waking up 20 degrees cooler from yesterday morning, but we'll have warmer conditions building in this afternoon. And a lot of it has to do with the sunshine that we have today. So 85 for the afternoon high. With all that sunshine, you don't want to leave the house without the sunglasses today, and you certainly want to keep reapplying the sunscreen on those kiddos that are going to be out on the playground today. If you're heading out to Comerica Park this evening, another great night for baseball in the D. We'll be in the low 80s for that first pitch at 6:40 against the Rays. And by the time we get to game's end, comfortably cooler. We're talking probably low to mid 70s by the end of the game. Forecasted highs across the state, pretty much 80s. It will be a little cooler in Port Huron, tip of the thumb. Closer you get to the water, usually we trend a little cooler. You get that lake breeze, but we do have low to mid 80s across lower Michigan for the most part. So now let's talk about rain potential. Come tomorrow, late morning, you could get a passing shower or two, but it's a little more robust as we head into the evening. So a bit more widespread where we could have a better chance for a heavy downpour later in the day tomorrow. Thursday, there are a couple just little isolated chances, really nothing to write home about. Friday should trend a bit drier, but then by Saturday, now we're looking at a much better chance for a line of showers and thunderstorms to roll through, and likely at this point Saturday evening, in which some rain could linger into the early part of Sunday, but we're still several days out, so we'll be fine-tuning that part of the forecast. But you see that we're in the mid-80s through Thursday, but we start to flirt with 90 by the first part of the weekend.
Okay, getting back there. All right, Ashley, thank you very much.
Got it?
All right, do you like flying with your shoes on? Do you want to take them off at the checkpoint?
I don't want to smell your stinky.
I know. A new TSA policy might let you keep your shoes on as you go through the screen. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Welcome back to Local 4 Live. A live look now over at Metro Airport, where you might not have to take off your shoes the next time you go through the TSA checkpoint. A memo went out to TSA officers last week saying a new policy will allow passengers to keep their shoes on during security screenings. The memo says this change will start Sunday at most airports across the country. We don't know if Detroit is on that list of most airports. The memo says the goal would be to roll out the new policy to all airports in the U.S. shortly. Passengers who trigger an alarm will be required to take off their shoes for some extra screening, though. The TSA began requiring passengers to take off their shoes back in 2006. Let's take a look now at stories that are trending right now on clickondetroit.com. A 9-year-old boy from Livingston County survived after being buried under 5 feet of sand at a dune. That dune collapsed on the 4th of July at the Silver Lake State Park in Oceana County. Police say the boy was digging a hole when the sand collapsed and buried him for 5 minutes. A group of people pulled that boy out. He wasn't breathing, but after first responders gave him CPR, he came to. The boy has been released from the hospital and is now back home. Drivers, you might want to pay attention here. Some orange barrels are coming your way. The Michigan Department of Transportation, MDOT, says crews are adding a protective surface to 4 bridges that had the bridge decks replaced in a 2017-18 project. The department said the next phase will involve crews adding an epoxy overlay to the I-75 Rouge River Bridge and the I-75 over Fort Street Bridge, as well as the ramp bridges themselves. The work requires 16 weekend closures. You can find that entire list and the dates and the closures on our website at clickondetroit.com. All right, when we come back, superintendents from Wayne and Macomb counties joining us to talk about how a budget in limbo in Lansing could impact the start of their school year. You're looking live thanks to our friends in Windsor at our Detroit skyline. The Detroit River in front of you. We'll be back in just a minute.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. Thank you so much for watching. Right now, school districts in Michigan are trying to budget for the next school year, plan for this coming school year. But the problem, they have no idea how much money they're going to be getting from the state. That's because the Michigan House and Senate could not come to a compromise on an overall state budget last week, blowing through a self-imposed deadline. So here's what the chambers are at odds over. The Democratic-led Senate wants to basically keep the traditional funding for K-12 schools. The Republican-led House wants to make changes, adding money for private schools and including penalties for schools that fund DEI or allow transgender athletes in sports. School districts set their budgets by July 1st, but it may not be until October 1st when the state has to pass their budget, when districts will finally learn how much money they will be getting. To talk about the impact from this, we are joined by Robert Monroe. He is the superintendent for Utica Community Schools. And we have Monica Merritt, who is the superintendent for the Plymouth Canton School District. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here. I have to ask, Is this frustrating? Is it something you're used to? How do you plan for a school year not knowing what kind of money you're dealing with? Robert, I'll start with you.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Appreciate your time this morning. I think you hit it right on the head. A lot of uncertainty around this budget and when and if the budget will get done during the summer or even going into the fall. You know, we're required to pass a budget for our school district by June 30th. And being that we're dependent upon 75% of our funding from the state of Michigan, this creates a lot of uncertainty. Being one of the largest employers in the state of Michigan, in Macomb County, it really makes it challenging to our constituents, our parents, our employees, to have this uncertainty looming around it. So we're really hopeful that sooner than later, a budget will get done.
So, Monica, a similar question to you then, especially your district isn't necessarily one of them, but there are a lot of teachers right now who don't even know if they're going to have jobs. I'm sure there are districts all over the place that are facing even larger issues.
Absolutely. So when you think about, as Mr. Monroe talked about, this lack of clarity and the impact here at schools, definitely through a teacher shortage, when we're having to budget conservatively because we don't know what the budget will look like in the fall. We've had to lay off staff, and at times those potential employees may look elsewhere. So you could start the school year off without students in classrooms to fill those. So not only are we looking at issues of staffing, but we're also looking at things that impact the day-to-day environment for students, our meal preparation, preparing for bus routes. When we look at our students with additional needs, such as special education services and Title I supports, we need to make sure that we have the funding to really support what every student needs to be successful. Right. And without this certainty right now, we're really having to budget very conservatively going into the fall, which puts us in a difficult position.
Which, speaking of, and Robert, this question will be for you, is that, you know, some of the state lawmakers have countered saying, well, they kind of know what the budgets are going to be. They can start working from there. I don't know about you, but I don't like kind of knowing what my budget is when I'm working on my checkbook.
No, I think you're right. It's like operating your own household, right? You really would like to know what's coming in so that you can plan for tomorrow. And I think that's exactly right, Nick. When we look at our budget planning, you know, that we're required to fulfill by the end of June, we really are looking at our best estimates coming out of the state of Michigan. So this year in particular, I think greater than any other year I've seen in quite a while, there's been vast proposals, one way or the other, as far as what we would be looking at as far as what a potential budget would be. So what we forecasted back in June is very much different what we're talking about today. And I would also add, as Dr. Merritt was talking about, moving into the fall. If things don't, if we don't get better clarity going into the fall, it's very hard to address certain issues that the school district needs or has moving into the fall. Because once we've established and started the school year, it's very, very difficult to add or look at resources to help support students. Or, for example, my community is very passionate about class sizes. We can't make adjustments on class sizes going into the fall once the school year has started.
Sure.
So I think those are very important issues for us.
So then what happens, and either of you can answer this, what happens if you are projecting a budget and then you don't get as much as you thought from the state and now you have a deficit after the school year has already started?
Yeah, to Superintendent Monroe's point, once you have staffing established, you can't start a classroom and then eliminate a teacher once class is started. And so you are forced to look at your fund balance at times. And when you're projecting what that budget should be, then you may have to make some adjustments on the side. Sometimes you may be forced to do last minute reductions in staffing, which is always going to be detrimental to students, which would result in increased class sizes as well. So as Superintendent Monroe shared, when we're budgeting conservatively in the beginning, we're used to getting these different forecasts, but they usually have something that aligns across the three in terms of the executive proposal, the House and the Senate proposal. But these last minute changes really have left us in a difficult position in terms of what that looks like for the fall. So most of us have had to make the decision to really budget very conservatively, have larger class sizes than we would anticipate, have less supports. And you have to remember also we're dealing with where we had a surge of federal funds for the last few years.
Right,
and
right.
now we still have those same needs. Students that are struggling with mental health challenges, we need to have the supports in place to help those students with those needs.
Right.
But we don't have that funding aligned. So
Yeah.
we've had to make difficult decisions early.
So you both have used the word conservative many times here, talking about what your budgets are going to look like. How then are you able to say, or I'll ask this, what is it like then when you have to budget conservatively, but you want to add on the additional support staff? You want to have more extracurriculars. You want to do the things that make community so much better, but you don't know if you're going to have the money, and then maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't.
I'll take that one first, Nick. I think, just as you said, conservatively, in many cases, we have to do without going into the next school year. Or we get very creative around the supports and the needs that the school district has. In many cases, we are looking to add services throughout the summer. But as I stated before, we move into the fall. That is very, very difficult. Dr. Merritt is correct when we talk about dipping into the fund equities that maybe we have in our school districts, planning for that school year, and then looking at how we can best supplement during the course of the school year. But then if we don't see those dollars come in, the stable funding coming in, then we're looking at possibly even making reductions during the course of the end of the year or going into the following school year.
Dr. Merritt, do you want to add anything?
I was going to share, we've already done some work to really prioritize those needs. So in addition to what's happening in Lansing with the delay of the budget, we also have some uncertainty that's coming around from some federal funds out of Washington, D.C. So we're already beginning to have those kind of if then what conversations to say. If we don't get the anticipated funding that we need, then what do we need to shift in the fall to still provide our students with the supports that they need with the uncertainty of the cost, and recognize that about 85% of our budget is for staff. And so when you think about those additional programs and supports that our students deserve, that our community expects, we really have to play that game to try to figure out what we're able to fund and what is the most important priority, which is always
right. And then you become the bad guy when you have to cut something only because of a budget shortfall you didn't know of. I do want to ask you one kind of a delicate question to both of you. I don't want to open the can of worms on politics, on DEI and transgender athletes and some of those things. I'm not going to ask you right or wrong, but I am curious your thoughts on caveats coming out of Lansing that say you might get this money or you might not, depending on if you do X or Y. Again, not asking the right or wrong portion of it, but what are your thoughts on caveats being tied to money?
Well, Nick, if I could, I think I was going to shift before you asked that question to just talk about stability of our funding. And I have to tell you, when we talk about, I believe there's a lot of discussion, a lot of chatter going on in Lansing around what this K-12 budget will look like. And I think when we talk about the stability of funding, I think we really have to look at not just this year, but long range. Certainly, we want to get a budget done now. But when we talk about the stability of funding, we always look back to our foundation allowance as being the area in which we want to see our funding go to. And then certainly we don't want to look at taking away from our kids that need certain supports, need additional help. For example, in Utica Community Schools, we have almost 80 languages that we see across our vast community. We also see that we have needs for our special needs students that have vastly increased, and that we need to look at how we provide them supports on a daily basis. So there are unique needs there. But at the end of the day, the stability of the funding really needs to parallel what we're doing with schools. When we get to the budget time in June or even prior, it would be wonderful knowing that we have this stable funding mechanism coming in each year. I know Lansing has heard from our K-12 organizations. They heard from us as superintendents that we don't want to do one-time funding. We don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul, take money out of the retirement fund, take money from higher ed and push it in, out of the K-12 budget. We would like to see a stable source moving forward. So as we're having this interview today, this conversation, we're not having these conversations in the future. We're talking more about what we're doing for kids and the great things that we're doing for kids on a daily basis. And I can speak for Utica Schools. We're doing some wonderful things for kids. Having a stable mechanism from Lansing would vastly improve our ability to get things done on a daily basis.
We are essentially out of time here, but Monica, I do have to give you the opportunity to talk about stability or caveats on funding.
Yes. I would definitely just add that we all know that there are different priorities across the state. But what I would say is that our taxpayers expect that every single dollar that is meant for the classroom will end up in the classroom. And our role as superintendents is to ensure that funding is spent as efficiently as possible in support of our students for their success. And that can only be done when our legislators get their job done and allocating those funds to us here at the schools. And I will say that we all can agree in terms of those caveats that more things such as roads need the investment. That really just can't come off of the school aid fund, though. We need to ensure that educators and parents alike can really get that support from Lansing to divert that money to the classroom and not outside of the classroom in support of our students.
All right, Monica Merritt, Superintendent for Plymouth Canton, and Robert Monroe, Superintendent for UCS Utica Community Schools. Thank you so much for joining us. I know this is an important conversation, a frustrating one, because I can tell by both of you today it must be a terribly difficult and challenging job trying to take care of all of our kids and not know what money you have to do it. So thank you again for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to switch gears here. A live look at Amazon's website right now. When we come back, get your virtual shopping carts ready. Today is Amazon Prime Day. We're going to talk through some of the things you probably don't want to buy, though, because there's better deals on better days. Welcome back to Local 4 Live. Let's take a live look at the stocks board right now. The market's opening about 14 minutes ago. You can see we're down just a little bit, but it seems to be that way almost every day. We almost always start off down, at least we have over the past week or so. A lot of this because of President Trump announcing more tariffs that also pushed trade tensions back to the forefront for Wall Street. The Dow ending the day 422 points yesterday down. NASDAQ dropping 188 and the S&P fell 49 points. All right, as we tried to show you live here on Local 4 Live, Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan having a growing young talent press conference this morning. That's where they're opening the city's summer employment program for all the young people. It's called Grow Detroit's Young Talent. It's a 6-week program that helps 8,000 people find work. Detroit Police Chief Todd Bedison just talked about the opportunities available within DPD alone. Take a listen.
I will tell you that not only do they have the opportunity to join the finest police department in the country, but they also have the opportunity if they want to be professional staff. Many people don't know that we have over 700 positions in the Detroit Police Department that aren't officers. We have forensic scientists, we have crime intel specialists, we have individuals that work in our real-time crime center, we have HR, we have computer technicians and specialists as well.
Well, since that program started in 2015, nearly 87,000 young people have found work. We'll have much more on this on later editions of Local 4 and Local 4 Plus. Well, it started as a one-day sales event in 2015, and Amazon Prime Day now runs for 4 days. The sales blowout is underway right now. It goes through Friday. Prime Day expected to bring in a record $12.9 billion in the U.S., according to research firm eMarketer. Now, before you add anything to your cart, though, you can save money by trading in something you already have. You can actually get about 20% off some Amazon devices by trading in some of your old tech, e-readers, smart speakers, cell phones, Fire Sticks, and more. Also, you should check to make sure whatever deal you're looking at is actually a deal. You can do that by checking historical pricing data on websites like camel.com or Honey's Drop List to do that. There's also some bigger discounts on Amazon renewed gadgets. Those are refurbished ones and promise to work like new. Also, check around with other online competitors. Sites like Coupon Cabin will give you cash back at Target, eBay, Kohl's, and Home Depot, which can actually add up to more money back than the original discount offered by Amazon. All right, let's take a look at a list of some things that you should hold off on buying. Number one, large appliances. You can usually find better deals during Labor Day sales. Number two, televisions. Those go for much cheaper around the holidays and leading up to the Super Bowl. Number three, video game consoles. Black Friday is a good time to get those when retailers are actually bundling those with controllers and games. And if you're already thinking about grabbing backpacks and pencils for the kids, just wait a little bit longer for back-to-school deals. Oakland University marketing professor Janelle Townsend says instead, keep your eye out for some summer-related products since Amazon is trying to clear out the inventory.
If you're looking to save money, it is likely that the best deals are going to be on some of the summer-type products, so lawn furniture, barbecues, things like that, because retailers are going to try to start clearing that inventory out as early as they can. The other things that you should look at are clothing. There's supposed to be some really good deals on clothing. And then electronics. You can save typically about 22% on electronics during Prime Days.
Well, as nice as that brand new grill sounds, she also recommends using these deals to buy the things you need rather than the things that you want. Did you hear that, Producer Brecken? Okay. A live look at Texas right now. When we come back, we're taking a closer look at the damage caused by flooding, as well as one family who is working to make a difference through all of this chaos. Welcome back. Let's take a live look at the Texas rain forecast map right now. More rain is expected following the Texas floods that have killed more than 100 people, and officials say that number is expected to go up. Rescue crews continue to comb through the region searching for any survivors. Yesterday, on the fourth day of the search, 10 girls and one counselor from Camp Mystic were still unaccounted for. Weather experts say more rain is coming in central Texas and a flash flood risk remains in that area. But despite this tragedy, we also want to show you the good that many people are trying to do in an effort to bring some relief. One Texas family who lost their daughter to the Uvalde mass shooting in 2022 went to Texas to help families impacted by this disaster.
We see the missing children from the camps. It's heartaching, it's heartbreaking, it's gut-wrenching. We know exactly how those parents feel, and maybe even the last little hope the hope that you have, that feeling, and just to know that your daughter's not coming home. We knew we had to help. We knew we had to do something. So our oldest daughter, Jasmine, has founded a nonprofit honoring her little sister, Jackie. Jackie's Loving Hands, and so it was her idea to just try to collect stuff.
A quick story about Jackie. She was a warrior. She worried on TV, seeing disasters, and she would always wonder, like, what happens to those people? And knowing that we can help out whenever we can, and in her honor, and of course we're going to do that.
Tip my hat to those types of people, because when you see disasters like this, you never really know what you can do. You know, some people start collecting money, they do fundraisers, some people go down on helping. You just, I don't know, you don't really know what they need is kind of the bigger question, because sometimes people show up and they don't want you around.
Right, but you know, you have such that helpless feeling. You want to help, but you just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but gosh, you know, your heart goes out to all those people. And when there is tragedy, was it Mr. Rogers saying, like, look for the helper?
Right.
Yeah, I just love that quote. You just got to look for the helpers, and that's what brings you the.
Especially when, as you mentioned earlier in the show, that it happened in the middle of the night. You know, which is so devastating, because, you know, it would have been bad, but that made it so much worse because people just didn't know it was coming until it was already too late. It's cliche to say, but it really is true.
Right. I mean, it happened in such a short amount of time that it's not just a matter of standing water. It was the fact that water was rushing through as the river, you know, overflowed. And so, yeah, here close to home, I mean, we're counting our blessings today, given that we have really the pick day on tap today when it comes to the forecast. So pleasant seasonal conditions, lower humidity. But the humidity will be on the rise. So don't get me wrong, later tonight, you're going to start to feel it's a little muggier out there, and then you'll definitely feel that difference by tomorrow with some storm chances possibly in the future tomorrow, though I don't think that they reach severe limits. We could get some heavy rain and even some gusty winds, but not enough to give that a severe thunderstorm kind of tag. So right now we have more blue skies and clouds, though we've had a few clouds mix in there, but the sunshine welcome after a pretty cloudy day yesterday, and that sun is helping warm us up. So we're in the upper 60s to right around 70 across Metro Detroit. And that temperature change showing that we are pretty close to where we were at this point yesterday as you get closer to the city. And that's going to just be an upward swing now that we hold on to the sunshine this afternoon. So get outside and enjoy it if you can, even if it's a small little window today. Playground forecast, great. Just make sure the kids have their sunblock on because the UV index will be higher today. 85 though for the afternoon high. So we'll be right around 80 at the lunch hour and get in the mid 80s this afternoon, which means we'll be low to mid 80s for that first pitch at Comerica Park at 6:40. Tigers taking on the Rays again, second game of that homestand, and by the end of the game, well, we're talking probably mid 70s, so comfortably cooler, and we don't have to worry about a tarp going on the field today. Forecasted highs across the mitten, mainly 80s, but you get up towards Port Huron and that upper tier of the thumb, closer to the water, it might be a little more of a struggle to get to 80, but still upper 70s on tap. So let's go ahead and look at what's ahead. We do have that chance for rain going into the later part of tomorrow, but it looks like we have a better chance of it being a bit more widespread by tomorrow evening. So have that umbrella on hand as we head into your Wednesday, trying to get you over the hump, but could be a little bit of a rainy forecast. And then Thursday, just an isolated chance. Friday, now shaping up to be drier, but Saturday we do have a front coming in, and that's going to bring a much more widespread chance for rain and some thunderstorms, and likely into the evening hours, although we'll fine tune the timing of that. Right now it looks like it's going to be later Saturday with possibly a lingering early morning storm on Sunday. And so it's the fact that that cold front clashes with the heat and humidity as we're close to 90 for the first part of the weekend. And then as we dry things out, we'll fall to the mid 80s. But even those seasonal conditions aren't lasting long, as Monday of next week, we're rising back into the upper 80s.
I'm still not going to complain. It's not 97.
I know, and just a little while ago, I showed you how in 1936 this week, I mean, it was...
Back in Darnell's days.
Back in Darnell's days, yeah.
Okay.
Dinosaur Darnell.
When we come back, we're going to take a look at some of our My Picks of the day. And today's submission will smell a little skunky. A live look over downtown Detroit. We'll be back in just a minute. Only a minute or so left here on Local 4 Live. Our mantra, you send them, we show them, as long as they're appropriate, Ashley. Unbelievable. That's how it works for our My Picks of the day. Today's My Picks coming out of Northville. A family of skunks on the 16th and 17th holes of the Salem Hills Golf Course. Just don't get too close. Stay far away. Remember, anybody can submit these types of photos under the My Picks tab over on clickondetroit.com. We love seeing them, again, as long as they're appropriate. Not saying you haven't been appropriate, except for that one guy. That one time. Thank you for joining us here on Local 4 Live. More news and weather ahead on Local 4 Plus and always on clickondetroit.com. A beautiful shot of the Detroit River and our Detroit skyline thanks to our friends in Windsor. Make it a great Tuesday, everybody.
Today on Live in the D, chalk art, craft brews, and adoptable pups. The Berkeley Street Art Fest is back. We've got a sneak peek of the food, the art, the fun for the whole entire family. Plus, have you heard of living funerals? We'll dive into the idea of having your celebration of life while you're still alive. The new trend that's changing the way we say goodbye. And how to get fit, feel good, and soak up those Detroit riverfront views all at the same time. All of that coming up today on Live in the D at 11 a.m.
Well, coming off a cooler start to your Tuesday, we'll warm up in the mid-80s this afternoon and still holding on to that lower humidity, sunshine, so really a nice seasonal day. As far as the humidity, it will be on the rise tonight through the remainder of the week, and we have